A Christmas Story is all about a young boy named Ralphie who really wants a BB gun for Christmas. But how will he convince his parents to bestow him with this perfect gift? This one is a holiday classic in the US, but it's not as renowned elsewhere in the world, so let's see how it holds up in 2025. Welcome everyone to the Collector's Cut. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
I triple dog dare ya.
This is a movie podcast. We are working through Christmas season because it's Christmas time. So Merry Christmas, everyone. And like all of our Christmas episodes this year, every single one was a Patreon vote. There was 3 movies from the 80s up for vote, and the winner, beating out Scrooged and Santa Claus the movie, I think, was A Christmas Story, which is what we're going to talk about today. So yeah, we'll get into it. We'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you warning before we get to the spoilers, and if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button. It helps us out a bunch if you do, and you can also support us via Patreon or YouTube memberships and get some bonuses, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. Give us Patreon memberships and stuff for Christmas. That's always nice. You can gift memberships too. You can buy memberships for someone else. Buy them a year of Patreon, even if you don't know who we are. Why not?
It's the spirit of giving. We give you content, but we hide it behind a paywall, so you give us money. There you go.
So yes, welcome to the show, everyone. A Christmas Story is obviously a pretty big Christmas classic, right? It's kind of a staple, with an asterisk. And the asterisk is in America, because A Christmas Story was very much not really something that made it over to the UK in any great way. Now, I'm not saying it never played on TV. I'm not saying it was completely absent, but it was not like, with Home Alone. It was not with Die Hard. It was not with any other, It's a Wonderful Life that we did last time. Like, it just did not translate to being this, like, whereas by the time I was on the internet, in my teens, 20s, whatever, and people were talking about their favorite Christmas movies or Christmas movies they grew up with, like A Christmas Story was coming up for like every American, and like I don't know anyone in the UK who'd ever really seen it or knew much about it. So there's a weird culture thing here where I don't know why it never quite cracked that, but here we are.
Well, there's 2 things that I think are equal here. First is it does have kind of a uniquely American feel to it. Like, I wouldn't say uniquely, I guess, but like it's very commercial. It's one of those movies that even, back in the 80s, this was something where it was all about getting the present, and it doesn't have so much of a focus as like It's a Wonderful Life or something like that, where it's about the spirit, the inspiration, anything like that.
Yeah, but that's what Christmas was to me as a kid. It was like wanting presents. So in theory, this should have appealed to me. And not that I ever knew about it as a kid, so I never had a chance to see if I'd have liked it then as a kid.
Right. But the other thing, though, that I want to point out is, as we said last time, It's a Wonderful Life, part of the reason that it got so much into public consciousness is because for a while there, it was in the public domain, at least we thought it was, and it was able to be aired constantly. Like, it was being shown in places constantly. This has a similar-ish thing where, I don't know the people you were talking to with the Christmas list, but since 1997, there's always been at least one TV channel that has aired this 24 hours in a row for Christmas Day every single year. So this is, if it's anybody who grew up in that sort of period, I guarantee you this is a major influencing factor.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So, what is A Christmas Story? It's really just kind of a slice of life. It's a period piece. It's set in the 40s, and it's kind of got narration from the main character, who's a little kid in the movie called Ralphie, but he's narrating as an adult, sort of talking back about his life. I won't quite say it's Wonder Years style, because it's not reflective. It's like, even though it's an adult voice, he's still kind of speaking as if he's still the kid. It's kind of like a slightly different vibe.
There's points where he gets scared in the story, and then like the narration is all shaky and like trying to imitate that feeling. Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of interesting because it's typically past tense still, except there's 1 or 2 moments where he shifts to present tense, which I thought was a bit weird. And I don't know if I was pulling my my old English lessons out and being like, you shouldn't be shifting tense like that. That's pick a lane here, Ralphie. But yeah, it's all about Ralphie and the build up to Christmas, really wanting this BB gun. for Christmas. Maybe that's why it also feels so American, is because the kid wants a gun for his Christmas. But
that's the most American thing I could imagine.
but you know, it's largely just the trials and tribulations, and the big thing about it more than anything is this idea that everything's from his lens, his point of view. So certain things are like tried to viewed through that lens of a kid that's the biggest deal in the world, that he just get into trouble for something, where he's scared that the parents are going to do this or do that his teacher's going to do this or do that. It's this idea of like, oh, it's the end of the world every time he messes up and gets into trouble, where, oh no, like the guillotine's coming out, I'm going to be like crucified for this or whatever it is. So that's the basic gist of it. It's all building up to Christmas, and to be honest, it's mostly a series of vignettes of just different incidents and moments leading up to Christmas. There's a few little through lines, like obviously him wanting the one present's a through line. There's a couple of other small through lines, but for the most part, it's very individual segments. Like, you know, there's a segment where it's all about going to get the tree and like the car breaking down after, and that's like a segment, and it's pretty self-contained for the most part. And you know, there's other ones like that throughout. So
yeah, I think it does, as much as it is vignettes, it does a good job of at least setting up the things for later vignettes. So, for instance, like, without getting too deep into it, there's the bit when they're changing the car tire or whatever is one of the more famous scenes of, like, a memeable moment from this is the best way I would call it. However, they do an earlier bit showing how, like, the father has a dirty mouth and how he is always cursing, whatever. And that's kind of a constant in this, where there's always little things at the beginning that pay off by the time you get to their vignette section.
Yeah. So that's the way it works, and that's pretty much it. I guess we'll just get into the main question of it. But David, what do you think of A Christmas Story?
So at the end of the Wonderful Life review, I did say that I felt like I kind of reached a point with this movie where I got a little sick of it. And that does come back to that stuff of, it's, you know, 24 hours on TV. It's always just going on. It does kind of just wear itself out after a while. I will say, before I get my opinions on this, I did not even know that this movie was an hour and a half long, because whenever it's played on TV, it feels like it goes on forever, because it is so packed with ads every like 7 minutes. And it just keeps it. Again, it's 24 hours, and there are 12 consecutive airings of it on these channels. So that is half an hour of ads for every hour and a half long movie in order to fit that schedule. It felt like that went on forever. But watching it now, just in one sitting, without ads interspliced in between, I think I like it just a little bit more than Memory Served last time. I still don't think I have the nostalgia factor of saying this is like the greatest Christmas movie, or this is something that I like deeply resonate with. But whenever it comes to the sequences that have kind of invaded pop culture and stuff like that, I get a chuckle out of them. I feel good about them. I don't know. There's something to the actual filmmaking craft itself that feels a little bit weak for me. It doesn't feel like it's an amazingly well-made movie, but I can recognize that the nostalgia factor and how much it does manage to get that childlike feeling of like, we go into daydream sequences and we constantly have his narration, and it feels very much like being a child. So I guess what I'm saying here is I got my ups and downs with it, and different things worked, different things didn't. So middle of the road, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because this is only my second time seeing it, because I did seek it out sometime in my 20s, just like, hey, I should cross that one off because it's meant to be like one of the bigger Christmas movies. And interestingly, the weird expectations going into it is that the director of this is Bob Clark. Now, do you happen to know off the top of your head what other Christmas movie Bob Clark has made?
Top of my head, no. I did look up his filmography, and I hesitate to say whether or not the one that I think you're going to say is actually a Christmas movie in terms of technical definition. But is it Black Christmas?
What do you mean in terms of technical? Of course it's a Christmas movie.
I mean, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong one here. Isn't that just like a straight up horror movie?
Yes, and
okay.
And your point?
All right. We had this conversation before with Die Hard, where it's like, it depends on your meaning of does a Christmas movie like need to inspire that feeling of Christmas hope and
No,
cheer?
it doesn't. Absolutely not. It's stupid. Everyone who thinks that's an idiot. I'm saying it right now. That's a stupid. Like, you could have a Christmas slasher movie, a Christmas action movie, a Christmas war movie, and those do exist. You could have a Christmas comedy. You could have you have all types of Christmas movies. It doesn't. Yes, but Black Christmas is great. Black Christmas is a phenomenal movie. About a guy who's hiding inside a sorority house, making obscene phone calls, and ultimately killing the girls. And it's delightful, it's nasty, and it predates even Halloween, and it's a jolly good time.
See, I think that while that's fine and all, the real magnum opus of his filmmaking career, though, was Baby Geniuses 2 Super Babies.
Yeah, I don't care about that. So he did Black Christmas before this, so it's kind of interesting that he did one of the most seminal Christmas horror films, and then he went on to do one of the most well-known Christmas kids movies in A Christmas Story. So, needless to say, I like Black Christmas more. I think it's a more interesting film, not just because I think it's got tension and all that other stuff, but there's more interesting stuff going on, because it's doing horror sequences, there's a lot more playfulness with the camera and things like that. Not that this doesn't have some stuff that it's doing to try and evoke that childlike kind of sense of like wonder and view of the world. I think that's where I come down in this, though, is that there's definitely moments I like, and I like the vibe that it's kind of shooting for at points, where it's like trying to do this, you know, this idea of like a kid's final few weeks on the run up to Christmas, and the kind of the big days approaching, and everything feels like, you know, do or die, because everything feels like the biggest deal in the world when you're a kid. Having said that, though, and this might be controversial, I don't actually like the narration, and I do not really like the main kid or the main kids. Like, I do not like them very much, and maybe it's just because of the type of movies I grew up with, but these kids might be far more realistic. But I don't want realistic kids in movies. I want kids that I actually find entertaining to watch, and realistic kids are annoying. So I found myself not really vibing, and like there's these little moments as well where he goes into like fantasies where he's like pretending he's like, you know, he's like fantasizing with his toy gun, and he's thinking that he's going to be like an outlaw or a sheriff protecting his house and all that, and he goes into this sort of like you know, there's like a vignette going around the screen and all that, and there's a few of these moments where he has like a little fantasy, and I was like, I don't know, I'm not quite like, I'm not finding this very amusing. I'm not finding it very charming. I'm just kind of like waiting for it to get back onto its point. And I do like, I don't want to critique too much for this, but I do think there is a lack of progression throughout the movie. Like, I don't even know if I really felt like we were getting closer to Christmas throughout, other than just the fact that we must be, because time's moving forward. But it never really felt like, you know, when I'm thinking of other Christmas movies that are just about, you know, families at the holiday, I'm thinking of like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, for example, where, you know, it makes a point of saying, hey, wake up this day, it's December 22nd, you know, wake up the next day, you know. So it's like, it's going to the advent calendar every day to make it clear we're counting down to Christmas kind of thing. But, you know, it felt like at times it almost kind of lost track of the central thing, where it's about him worried that everything he does or says is going to either put points in his favor for getting his toy gun that he wants, or not getting his toy gun that he wants. There's definitely sections in the middle where I feel like it almost forgets that that's what it's about, and we're just doing random, you know, Christmassy bits with the family, kind of thing.
That's where I kind of make the debate point is, whenever you look at like a plot synopsis or anything like that, it does say that that's the point of the story, is this getting the BB gun. I think that's a bit too reductive. I think the fact of the matter is that it is basically just an anthology story. Yeah, BB gun is the framing device, but it's allowed to dip outside of that for significant periods.
Yeah, but you're the one who just said point of the story. I never said that. I said the premise is this, and I think that is the premise, is that he wants his BB gun for Christmas, and that's what the movie's framed around. At no point would I ever say that's the point of the story. That the synopsis and the point of the story are two very different things.
All right, fair enough. But I would still hesitate to even say the premise. Like, I think if you're really going the premise of the story, it should just be put out there as the events of this boy, of this family, whatever, in the lead up to Christmas. I think the BB gun is the most recurring thing, but I don't think that it needs to be the central thing.
I don't know, because this is not really about what the synopsis says, though. This is about what the movie introduces at the start as the central goal of the main character, who is Ralphie. Yeah. And that's what he wants. And that's what everything in the first 30 minutes is about. It's him thinking about how he can construe things to try and convince his parents, or convince his teacher to convince his parents, or, whatever his little concoctions are to try and get this done. And then it kind of fades away after a certain point. And I guess at a certain point, I was feeling it being an anthology, and I was, I was like, okay, I think there's a reason why I don't remember this that fondly from that one time I saw it, is that there's not really that much of a drive up towards the end of the movie,
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think that's kind of what I was getting at when I was saying the actual filmmaking technique and all that sort of stuff is, while I appreciate that they do kind of get into that childlike feeling where, you understand the eagerness that he has and the way that they portray it there. In terms of structure, in terms of character arcs, stuff like that, things kind of just happen and then stop happening. There's a best case example that I could think of is there's a bit where Ralphie at one point gets into a fight. His mom finds out about it, and you get this whole thing where it's going to be, when the dad finds out, how much trouble is he going to be in? And you get this arc for the mom where you get to see how understanding she is and how much she's taking Ralphie's side, making sure he's okay and all that. But then that's halfway through the movie. We don't get that anymore. That just drops off after that point. And I feel like that happens for every character in this movie, where we get something that happens to them and then the character just kind of is done from then on.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, you know what? This is a beloved movie. It's got a very high rating in IMDb. I realize that I am probably in the fairly negative end of the spectrum, although I still don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly pleasant for what it is, but it's just not one that I'm rushing to watch at Christmas time. It's not one that I have any attachment to. I think just tonally, it just doesn't quite fit with me. I want, maybe it's because I grew up watching Home Alone, but I want a Kevin McAllister. I want a kid with some attitude kind of at the center, with something a bit more, I don't know. So, because early on, they do a little thing where he's planting an ad for his toy gun in his mum's magazine. That's a very early scene, and it was almost, I think, in the first viewing when I watched this, I was probably thinking, is there going to be a series of weird plans that he has to try and subliminally put it into his parents' heads that he wants this thing? Where else can he plant images, or what else can he do? And I thought, he's going to get creative with him trying to scheme his way to getting what he wants for Christmas. And then that's kind of it. It's just really that, right? Is in terms of actual, fun planning, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, I will say, obviously this doesn't excuse it, but this is based off of an semi-autobiographical tale. The guy who's doing the narration is actually the guy who wrote the original stories, and theoretically these are all things that actually happened to him throughout his childhood. So I think there is this balance between they wanted to tell his story somewhat faithfully, especially since he was involved in the project, but at the same time, you need to pump it up. You need to make it actually more intriguing from a movie standpoint.
Yeah, I feel like people are just mad at us, because I feel like most people who click on this would probably love this movie. It's probably a Christmas favorite, and we're both just kind of it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I wish that I was part of the generation that really, really found this nostalgic. And there are moments to it. I think that without, saying too much about it, I think the ending shots of this movie is exactly the kind of nostalgic feel that I'm looking for. And there's several others littered throughout. And not to say anything of the humor of the movie, but while sometimes, especially the flashback sequences, I think didn't quite work, or not flashback, fantasy sequences, while they didn't quite work for me, there are so many just little quick takes, little tiny things between the characters that got such a genuine chuckle out of me that I do find it, I would say, funny as an overall thing. I would say this is a funny movie.
That's amusing. I don't know if it necessarily hit me until I don't think I ever actually audibly made a noise, I guess, is what I'm saying.
The one, I mean, I'll just say it up front because I may forget it in the review. The bit that got me was you have the bully Scut Farkas, which hell of a name. The first time he shows up, he pushes down Randy, the younger brother, and then goes after Ralphie, the main kid. And there's a shot where it's from way far out. Randy is just laying on his back on the ground, no movement at all. And they like that's all that happens in the shot. The narration says something about like he had taken to his slug pose because it was his only defense. But like just to cut to a shot of this kid laying dead on the ground and then cutting back to the main story, I found that hilarious for some reason.
Well, since you brought up the Billy character, the Scut Farkas dude.
We're going to get demonetized if we say that too much. It's going to trigger something.
Well, someone's going to be triggered in a second when I tell you what else you've seen him in.
Hold on. I know it. I know we've looked this up before. Okay, what is it?
As an adult, he is the star of Uwe Boll's Postal.
Oh, that's right. Oh, Scut Farkas is the worst.
He's also in, I think, the second Resident Evil movie, so he's also on my shit list for that as well. So
Great.
He's a little monster, frankly. Like he just grows up to being nothing but crap.
Oh, what a sad career. Like, I'm sorry, but like that's just not great.
The sad part is that I feel like I recognized him as soon as he showed up. I was like, yeah, you look familiar. And I looked him up. I was like, oh, yeah, you're this asshole. That's right. Jeez. So, yes. A Christmas Story starring Uwe Boll alumni, Zach Ward.
I mean, not at the time, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hindsight, obviously, but you know what I mean. It's a distressing fact, regardless. Not that actual actors haven't been in Uwe Boll movies, because they have.
Yeah.
They got a payday. Some of them went full frontal just because they felt like it, apparently. So,
by the way, Patreon, anybody who's interested in that.
Yes. We reviewed Postal on our monthly Patreon show, Extra Reels, where we do really bad movies, and Postal was one such movie. So, yeah, movie's all right. I mean, obviously, it's got all the Christmas vibes. There's a lot of scenes in snow. There's a lot of looking at Christmas parades, looking at Christmas windows, but the toy shop and things like that. There's, Christmas morning, waking up, getting presents. It's got a lot of the Christmassy things that you would you associate with the time period that would probably bring that sense of nostalgia. I almost feel like the characters, to an extent, don't matter I'm sure some people do like the characters, but I think it feels more like just a lot of what this movie packages into it. You could cut out like half of the stuff that's actually in the movie plot-wise and character-wise and present it as just like a mood piece of like these Christmassy scenes, and it would probably hit all the notes that it needs to hit for the people who like it, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I feel like it is, to the point where almost everything that I hear about this movie, whenever it's mentioned, is just the quotable bits. It's the "you'll shoot your eye out." It's the bunny suit. It's the drink your Ovaltine. Like, I feel like so much of this is just the punchline to the vignettes and not so much of what the characters actually do or grow, because, as I said earlier, they really don't. They don't change that much.
No. So I guess we'll give the spoiler warning just so that we can talk a bit more freely about things that happen in the movie. So spoilers from this point on. I don't know if we can go through an order, because like I said, because it is so broken up individually, it's hard to actually remember the order of a lot of the things in this movie. They are, like, it's very easy to remember, okay, here's the segment where this bit happens, here's the segment where that bit happens, but for the most part, they don't really follow on from one another all that much.
There is the Wikipedia page for this very helpfully has the main quote unquote plot, which deals with the BB gun. And then it just has a bullet point list of all the other vignettes. So I'm not at all in order, but at the very least, we can make sure we cover them.
All right, let's talk about the lamp. I feel like that's the big one that always comes up, is the lamp.
Okay, yeah.
The leg. The dad mentioned that he was putting in for a prize draw, or he's doing a quiz or something for a prize early on, and then he comes home all excited later that he won the prize, and like at this point it's like, oh, so is it money? Is it like a trip? Is it something important? He says it's coming later, and sure enough, later that night, knock on the door, a big wooden crate right? This is before cardboard was invented, apparently. So because then there's
you
big
say
wooden
that,
crate.
but it might be true.
It may
like
be
this
true.
1940, it might be.
So he has this big wooden crate. He has to pry it open with a crowbar. There's tons of hay, and it builds and builds until it reveals what it is. He's won. Well, at first it's the leg, and they're like, "What is it?" Well, it's the leg, and it's obviously it's in a high heel. It's got like fishnets on, and then he keeps looking, and he's like, I know what this is. It's a lamp, and he puts the lampshade on it, and he's like, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And the wife, clearly, the entire time, is horrified about this thing. And the joke of the scene is that he wants to put it right front and center of the window so people can see it from outside, and she is just mortified by this. She's embarrassed. She doesn't want it to be there. And this all culminates in her accidentally, maybe, knocking it over and destroying it in a later scene.
Mm-hmm. There's the scene where she breaks it, but there's also kind of just one interstitial scene in there. So they set up the lamp, they do whatever. I love the interstitial scene where I think it's when they're going out to get a tree, and everyone's going out to the car. She runs back in and turns off the lamp as they leave. And he's like, why'd you turn it off? And she goes, well, we have to save electricity. And then it does a wide shot to show every other light in the house is still on. Like they just turned off that one there.
Yeah. People remember this. And to be fair, it is funny, and it's mainly for the wife's like constant reaction to all of it. That's why it's funny. And there's a little bit of Ralphie being kind of fascinated by the sexy leg, I guess, as well. He's kind of like trying to touch it, and the mum's like, no, Ralphie, you little pervert, get away from it. Don't do that.
And then, after she breaks it, they snap at each other, and he's like, oh, you were just jealous of me. I love the implication, though. Maybe it was a quiz or something like that, but I always watched this with the implication that it was just a random draw, like it was a sweepstakes, more or less. And so he keeps on saying like, oh, I won it, it's an award or whatever, but he's like, it's just random chance. He had no reason to brag about it at all.
I want to say that he said at the start it was like literary characters was the quiz, because she says, what is it this time that you're doing a quiz for? And it was, maybe I've combined two things together.
Sounds
there,
right, because that would make sense with why he's saying that it's for his mental prowess or whatever.
Yeah. I think my favorite part of that confrontation, though, is when he says, you're just jealous, but that's all he says at first, and she's like, you can tell she's thinking, well, you think I'm jealous of that I'm not as sexy as the leg? And he's like, you're jealous that I won. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's way more petty. It's less misogynistic, but it's really petty.
Well, then they immediately move into even more petty, where it's like, go get the glue. And she's like, we're out of glue. And he's like, you used up all the glue on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, the parents are funnier than the kids. I'm just going to say it. The parents are by far funnier than the children.
Absolutely. No, they're great. Confession, for a completely separate project I was working on, I did actually watch the unofficial/official sequel to this, A Christmas Story 2, which was made in like 2010s, somewhere in there. Boy, howdy. They just did not understand the parent characters at all. And that drained any sort of likability from the movie immediately.
Is that like Ralph grown up with his own kids? Is that what the sequel is?
No. Well, that's one of the sequels. There's apparently 3 sequels to this movie, all from different production companies. The one I watched, he's round about 16, 17, and his whole thing is trying to get a job around Christmas for some spending money.
Okay. So it's maybe the same parents then in that movie, technically.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and they're just the worst. I hate them.
All right. Fair enough. Good to know. Oh, not this year, because we're doing a different Christmas film for X Reels this year, but I do know that Christmas Vacation 2 is a particular stinker for X Reels one year. We'll have to think about that.
Yeah, we can think about that.
Look, it's going to happen. We'll have to fit in a vacation season at some point, though, before that. I don't want to do it without doing the first one first.
I was going to say, I've never actually seen the first one, so we
really?
gotta get on that.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, savage. So now this little subplot with the leg lamp is pretty funny, mainly for honestly, the confrontation is my favorite part of it, because they get so petty with the way they're firing back at each other. But that's kind of that stuff. I guess the other big sequence that I think people maybe quote the most, at least from what I remember people quoting from this, is the "Oh fudge, only I didn't say fudge."
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is they go out to get a tree, and the dad's heckling with the guy selling the trees, and the guy selling the trees clearly has no idea what he's talking about. He's just saying whatever they want to hear for every tree he picks up. But they go in the car, and the car gets a flat tire. And the dad's actually quite excited about this because he loves testing how quick he can change a flat tire. He thinks he's like, you know, I think the kid narrates and says, oh, he thinks he's in like the F1 and he's in the pit crew, like changing the tires out as quickly as possible. So he goes out to change the tire. He's all enthusiastic. And the mum sends Ralphie out to go help him. Like, you're old enough now, go help your father. So he basically is just told to hold like a little dish so that he can put his bolts in that he's taken off the wheel. And, but then, and it's not even Ralphie's fault because the dad's the one who hits it accidentally, but he sends all the bolts flying, and Ralphie, without thinking, just goes, "Oh, fudge, only I didn't say fudge," and it becomes a big thing where he's like, "What did you just say?"
Maybe, you know, 1940s, maybe it was a different reaction on that, but I love how anytime like anyone repeats the word to someone else, it's like they just uttered like eldritch speech. It's like, oh my god.
The best one is when because the mum finds it in the car obviously, and she's basically got a bar of soap in Ralphie's mouth and saying, "Where did you hear that word?" And in his narration he's like, "Well, obviously my dad, he says it like 15 times a day, but I couldn't say that, so I just said my friend's name." So we see her call up the friend's mum. It's like, "Do you know what Ralphie just said?" And she sort of whispers it into the phone, and then you just hear this voice on the other end of the phone go, "Ah, ah, ah," and he learned it from your son. "Rah, rah," just screaming.
No, the first one is like shock. It's like, oh god, what? And it's, I would rate it at like a 7 out of 10. And then as soon as like, and she heard it from your son, then it goes to a 10, and it's just rage.
So I mean that's that, and then, you know, basically like wash your mouth out and go to bed. And then for some reason there's just a little bit where the mum tries the soap in her mouth to see how bad it is, because just like, what am I putting my son through? And she lasts like 2 seconds before she spits it out and is like, oh, that's nasty.
Yeah. Honestly, if the scene ended there, I would have been fine with it, but they just had to tack on the extra bit of a fantasy sequence where he goes blind from soap poisoning and he like guilts his parents because of it.
Yeah, I didn't need this. This was one of the sequences that I was... Honestly, every fantasy sequence he has, for the most part, I really didn't need. I mean, it was this one and then the one earlier on with the gun. Those are the two main ones. He does kind of imagine his teacher's a witch at one point, but that's not really a full fantasy sequence. It's just kind of a one moment looking over thing.
Honestly, it's a more modern take on it, but it just reminds me of like Scrubs. Like all of a sudden it just does a quick little cutaway that's like semi-related to what he's thinking. Those two fantasies are more fleshed out. They're more their own things, but all the other ones are just like, boy, I hope my teacher gives us a good grade. And then he just takes 30 seconds to imagine everyone else gets F, but he gets an A++++.
Well, he does this thing where he's like looking through, or she's looking through all the papers that she's got handed back in, because this was one of his game plans. Is he thought when he was asked to write I think they call it a theme. I never heard that term for this before, but an essay basically. Write a short essay on Christmas or something, whatever it was. And
what
he's
you
like,
want for Christmas?
This is my chance. I'm going to write the best essay ever, and the teacher's going to like, you know, I'm going to get an A, and I'll show that A to my mom, and she'll have to give me the present I want. She'll have to. So he imagines her going through the papers, and she's like, "Oh, this is terrible. The margins are terrible. Blah blah blah." And she's like, you know, scoring everything out. But then she gets to his booklet, and she's like, "Oh." And you know, the romance music starts playing, na 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 na. Like, this is perfect. This is the greatest thing ever. And I do appreciate that this actually doesn't pay off until like 40 minutes later when we get a scene where she's handing them back out again, and he's got a C+, and he's like, no. And then there's like a PS at the bottom under the grade. PS, you'll shoot your eye out. And he's like, my mum must have got to her. This is the only possible explanation why she would say that to me.
And then again, they cut to her as a witch, and the mom, I think it's like a jester or something, and they're just taunting him. It's a fine. That's kind of one of the very few ones vignette wise that I feel like is completely forgotten. Like, everything else has at least one quotable line or at least a visual or something. But this entire thing with the paper, I feel like, is, as soon as it was brought up, I was like, oh yeah, right, he tries to do this.
It's weird that he thinks this is his way out before Santa. Like, he doesn't even think of Santa as an option until like 50 minutes into the movie, where he's like, oh yeah, the big guy, the head honcho, Santa. Well, I'll go and ask him. And yeah, that's as well. It's quite near the end of the movie where we get the scene where he's waiting in queue to see Santa at the mall. He eventually gets there, and the Santa's like this gruff guy who's like hates all the kids. He's like, get this one off of me now. And they do a whole thing here where he completely like stun locks and can't say anything when he's on Santa's knee, and Santa's like, do you want a football? And he's like, uh-huh. And then we get maybe the most famous image of the movie, at least the one that I always see on the poster whenever it's like on a streaming service or something. It's him when they put him down the chute, because they've got like this chute going away from where Santa's sitting, his grotto, where he just sort of like stops himself from sliding, turns around, climbs back up, and is hanging on to the top of the chute and says, no, I want this BB gun, this red Remington, blah, 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 blah. He says it the exact same way every time. He's got every detail mapped out.
Red Ryder, 200 something bolt action BB gun.
Yeah. And Santa says, you'll shoot your eye out with that, kid, and then literally shoves him away with his boot to send him down the chute. And that's kind of your big sequence. I
also, as much as that image is definitely the thing from that vignette, I love the kid that's standing in front of them in line. It's such like one of those things that I can totally imagine the writer or the narrator, whatever, having the memory of this kid standing in line. And it's just so weird and out there that he never forgot them, because this kid is wearing like pilot goggles and a full like pilot hat and all that, and he's just got this plastered on goofy grin, and like anytime anything happens he just turns around to face Ralphie, goes like, I like Santa. And I was like, yeah.
How many prostitutes do you think this kid has killed now by the time he grew up?
Not nearly as many as Scott Farkas, but he's up there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other stuff, is that, you know, when they go to school and that, we have the interactions with the bully and the evil music and all that, which, you know, the first encounter is not, you kind of already brought up the main part of it, which was the little brother getting knocked down and like playing dead, because that was his only option. And you've got the stuff, of course, with the betting of the sticking the tongue to the post to see if it sticks with the two friends, and that's where you get the whole, I dare you, I double dare, I double dog dare you. And then he's like, oh, he committed a faux pas, and he went straight to triple dog dare you, but it worked or something. You know, it's this idea that he's speaking kind of eloquently, but he's taking all the kid stuff very seriously. That's kind of the gimmick they're going for with the narration. Yeah, and it kind of works, and it kind of doesn't sometimes. I don't know. I was kind of mixed on it.
I mean, I get what you're saying, that it sometimes doesn't work, but that's kind of what I like about the charm of it, is that the movie takes the kids stuff as seriously as the kids would take it. So, you know, when later on we'll get to the Dakota Ring stuff, when that happens, it's done through this very serious lens. As an adult, we recognize it's not serious. It doesn't matter. But the movie gives it this gravitas. And then same thing here, where when the dare is put in, as soon as he says triple dog dare, you know, as an adult, whatever, you just turn around. Like, who cares? It's not going to matter. But as a kid, that gravitas to it, the you can't turn away from this sort of thing. I feel like the movie does a good job of getting that across.
This is not a great comparison, because it's a very different movie with a very different tone. But like, I like the idea of following a kid in a story and having everything be taken super seriously, because that's how a kid processes it. But like, I think like what the kid's going through could be a little more interesting, and I think the example my brain goes to when I think of this concept, now it's a little bit older, it's not the exact same age, it's kind of, I mean, the movie's called 8th Grade, which tells you the age of the character, right? And that movie is like this like intense drama from the point of view of this girl who's, you know, whatever age you are in 8th grade in the US, what are you? But then
that's 13.
13, yeah. And it's this idea, and yeah, that sounds right, because it's right at this brink of like, okay, starting to think about the opposite sex, starting to think about boys, starting to feel worried about how she looks. And there's a great sequence in that where she's really like embarrassed about how she looks in a bathing suit, but she's at this like party where there's a pool, and she has to go out, and the way that the movie like frames films and portrays this walk out to the pool like she's walking out to the final fight of a Rocky movie, but with like all this tension, is so good. And it really sort of tells you just how mortifying it was to her in that moment. Like, I'm all for doing this gimmick. I don't even use that word in a negative way, but this you know, the technique, I'll call it, of putting something through a kid's lens, but treating it as seriously as they would treat it, even though we know as adults it's not that serious. It's not a big deal. No one's going to remember this, right? Yeah. You think you're in trouble, they'll forget about it in a week. It's not you know, the biggest thing in the world. So, anywho.
No, there's much in that same sort of vein. There's a show that I watched. I think it was on Hulu. I don't know if it moved. It's called Pen 15. It stars Maya Erskine and yes, that's the point of it. Yes, but it's that same sort of thing where it's a bunch of middle schoolers and they're doing all that stuff. But the quirk of it is that our two main leads, or two female leads, are both in their like early 30s, but they're still playing like the 15-year-olds, and they're surrounded by other 15-year-olds. So it just adds a whole bunch of extra layers to the like making it feel like this is so important and all that, but also the absurdity to it because these are actual adults acting out these scenes. So no, there are ways to do it, and I think that this movie does it well. Obviously, there are ways to do it a lot better and make the gravitas like something bigger, but I appreciate that this one's a bit more lighthearted in the way that it's approaching it.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say this shouldn't be lighthearted. I don't mean to suggest that. That's why I said it wasn't a great comparison, because that's going for a much more serious kind of examination of growing up. But, you know, I guess I just maybe like more of an actual plot through line, because the whole thing with the bully, which is basically just one scene with the bully where they run away, and then another scene with the bully. Well, technically there's one little scene before the second scene where like he kind of says, come here, and they all just kind of go into class, right?
It's also like a scene interstitial as well, where it's like a speed up version of them being chased down an alleyway.
So, but the actual fallout of all this, so the payoff to it all, is another scene with the bully where, because this is right after he's gotten the bad grade for his essay, so he's in his lowest moment and he's thinking he's not going to get his Christmas present, everything's not coming up Ralphie, and then the bully decides to like throw a snowball at him and start, you know, calling him a chicken or whatever, and he basically just loses his shit and jumps on the bully and starts hitting him as hard as he can over and over again. Bunch of kids start watching, and the mum comes up as he's hitting him and just, it's implied that he's swearing, although you never really hear any actual swearing coming from him.
It's the way the dad swears, where it's all just mumbles and like fake swears and stuff like that, but it's the exact same, which is implying he was saying some messed up stuff there.
He's doing the Muttley from Wacky Races, if anyone's familiar with that. And that was a cartoon for kids. They got away with a lot of implied swearing for that character. But you know, that's kind of the payoff to it, and it almost feels like I could see like a slightly different version of the script where there's more of a through line of like the bully being this rival, and it means a bit more when he finally loses his shit and just starts fighting back, as opposed to it being like just this one setup and then payoff kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like what gets me about this movie, is the things that feel the most strong, like the biggest moments, are way too early. I feel like there's a thing where you could put them closer to the end and it would pay them. Because as I was saying at the beginning of this, that's the sequence where like the mom covers for him and basically says like, yeah, he got in a fight, but it's no big deal, don't worry. And the dad just brushes it off. But like, he could have been in a lot of trouble there if you had done that. You contrast that against the soap scene, you contrast that against other stuff that the mom and dad were doing, then you have that as the big payoff where it's like, oh, hey, despite me possibly, you know, being angry at my mom for the soap thing or anything like that, she still has my back. You can make that a through line, but it happens like 45 minutes before the end of the movie. So it doesn't feel like it's really that much of a payoff as much as just the end of that story.
Yeah, and obviously the big thing with the dad is that the dad's the one that ultimately gets him the present, you know, because he thinks he's not got it on Christmas morning, and then the dad's like, hey, I think there's something behind the desk, go and check it out. And even the mum's unaware of what this is, and it turns out to be the BB gun, and he's all excited about it. And the dad has one little moment where he sort of looks at the wife and goes, oh, I had one when I was 8 years old. And he kind of, and it's showing this idea of like, oh, he's aware of what his son wants and what would please him. And even if he feels disconnected the entire time, and lost in his own little world. He does know his son, and he got him what he wanted. So it's it's this sweet enough little moment. And I do like the idea that the movie, because the one thing the movie really does do is that I think by the end you realize that all these memories are actually more important than what he wanted for Christmas, and that he even got it. Because we don't end the movie on him getting the toy and using it. The moment, the memory that he remembers most of all, at least according to his narration, is the fact that because the dogs ran in, the neighbor's dogs ran in and ruined the turkey. They have no Christmas dinner. The dad was looking forward to the turkey. So we get a scene where they're at like a Chinese restaurant on Christmas Day getting a duck. And the camera pulls back as they're sitting in the restaurant and they're laughing and whatever. And hey, that's the memory. He remembers going to this Chinese restaurant and getting quote unquote Christmas turkey, which is a duck.
Yeah, that's kind of why I don't like it when people boil this down to the Red Ryder BB gun as kind of the overarching plot, is because he gets it. They pay off the "you'll shoot your eye out" line with him shooting like a metal wall or something like that. It bounces back, knocks off his glasses, but it literally says like, "Oh my God, I shot my eye out." And it's like, yeah, okay, great. I like that. That works out. That's a fine thing. But then you got another 10 minutes in the movie. And it's not even just 10 minutes of wrapping up this particular thing. It's 10 minutes of a completely new plot line of the turkey dinner. Or I don't know if you call it dinner, since it seems like they just had breakfast, but whatever. The turkey that they're making and going out for Chinese.
It's supposed to be late afternoon, I think, by the time they're at the restaurant, but
fair.
Time difference. No, because the gun thing's still the framing device. It's still the plot, even if the final point of it is that, that's not really what mattered though in the end. Because the whole point, the whole narrative reason why it feels like there's an impact and he's learned something by the end is that, no, that's not the thing that mattered. What mattered was the memories that was created with the family along the way.
Yeah.
And that's what the movie's been kind of showing. So I think that stuff works. That said, though, they do kind of end the movie on him hugging his gun in bed, and then the credits start rolling outside the house. That's how the movie
just
ends.
to show that he's become a full American.
So that's what it is. I mean, what else is this is the thing, it's such a fragmented series of things. I suppose we didn't really talk about the decoder ring segment. I suppose we should talk about that.
Really, there's only two more that are left as far as I could see, one of which is barely one, but the decoder ring's the bigger one. It does have setup at the beginning. It's right as the leg lamp is being put on display for the first time. They introduce the idea that Randy and Ralphie listen to the Little Orphan Annie radio show, and Ralphie put in for a decoder ring that you get for like drinking. You got to send in the box tops for Ovaltine chocolate milk or whatever.
I think the first mention of it is actually when he first gets home from school, because he checks the mailbox and he's like, "Oh, my decoder ring might be here," and he's like, "Oh darn, I've been left."
Yeah, I remember him checking the mail. I just couldn't remember where that happened.
Yeah, I think that happens first, but then you see them listening to the radio. And then, again, just kind of like whatever random point it is later in the movie, he does check the mail again. And, it's there. He's got his decoder ring. And he's all excited. He listens to the radio, give out the code and the hidden message. And he goes up to the bathroom, because that's where he'll get privacy, to decode the message. And the music builds and builds as he figures out each letter. And he's like, there's a message here, and this is going to be important. And it's just... remember to drink your Ovaltine.
Be sure to drink your Ovaltine. And then you just see, I like how the last line in this sequence is I headed back downstairs, learning an important life lesson or something. You understand, the childhood innocence has just died a little bit of all of this was just for a crummy commercial.
Yeah, I have an important question though, David. What is Ovaltine?
It is as far as I'm aware, chocolate milk drink from back in the day.
Okay, good to know. Yes,
I've never had. That's not a uniquely American thing, and that it's stuck around.
Yeah. I'll take your word for it. It sounded more like the name makes me think of like Pepto-Bismol. It feels like something like that. That's what the name sounds like. I hope
that there isn't a commercial that just says chug more Pepto-Bismol. That's not a good product.
I'm picturing something that's supposed to be healthy. That's what I'm picturing in my head. Ovaltine.
Gotcha. No, it was definitely chocolate milk. It's definitely children's sort of I won't say junk food, but you know what I mean, like a soft drink sort of thing.
Which, bad name then, because honestly, it does not conjure up that in my head.
Well,
so
there's a reason it didn't stick around. The branding clearly didn't work past the 40s.
Yeah, just call it Choco Juice or something. I don't know.
Well, it says related products, Nesquik. That one stuck around.
Yeah, Nesquik stuck around, but they've got a fun bunny rabbit that's on their packaging. That's helped with that over the years.
Yep. Speaking of which, that's the other plot thing. The bunny rabbit.
Yes, the pink. Yes, the auntie has knitted him a onesie. They wouldn't have called it a onesie in the 40s, I don't think, but that's what it is.
No.
It's a pink bunny onesie.
According to the Wikipedia, it is a pink bunny footed sleeper.
Okay.
Sure. Probably just footy pajamas.
Yeah, a footed sleeper agent. Yes. Basically, he doesn't want to put it on, but the mum's very insistent that he will put it on, so he does. And she thinks it's the sweetest thing ever. I almost felt like this was a flip of the lamp thing, where the dad was looking, clearly thinking, this is stupid. Like, why did she give him a pink bunny outfit? But he's just keeping his mouth shut, and the mum's like, oh, isn't that precious? Isn't it the most precious thing ever? And I'm like, I feel like him and Ralph are going to work together to wreck this thing. Oh, the dogs next door got to it. It's been torn apart. Oh, what a shame.
I love the look on the dad's face when he pulls it out. Like, Ralphie's arguing, saying like, I don't want to put it on. The dad's staying quiet, but on his face it's just like, oh dear Lord, what are you doing to my son? Please, please don't make him do this.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, I feel like it's so funny. Like, It's a Wonderful Life last week was like such this, obviously it's a classic, but it's very much a drama where there's like a very much strict through line to what the plot is. The character's got this progression that he goes through the entire time. And I feel like with this one, we've had a list of like specific scenes or like segments that we need to bring up and talk about, but I don't really have some grand feeling of like how he moves through the story and, like, and I guess it's more true to life because real life doesn't operate on arcs. It doesn't, and a real kid at this age wouldn't have necessarily learned that much by the end of the couple of weeks that this movie set over. But it's a movie. It's a story. There should be maybe a little bit more to that. So I kind of get why people might like it as a slice of life, just like Christmas time movie. And I think if you did grow up watching it, it probably hits really hard. But I saw this for the first time when I was like 25. Or something like that. So,
well, that's honestly, I think that's kind of the reason why it's put on that 24-hour loop on the TV stations and why people remember it fondly is that you really can just drift in and out of this story. Like, at no point does it matter where you are or like if you're watching something from the middle and then you go back to the beginning and then you watch something at the end. Like, it all kind of is just one mush of general Christmas story vibes. Like, it's not a clear narrative. It's just something you can go through. And that's very conducive to the way that I think a lot of people watched this growing up, of having it split up by ads where you'd be busy opening presents. You'd be busy seeing family, and you just have it on in the background whenever you needed a moment to catch up.
And you just see parts of it out of order, and it wouldn't really matter that much.
I swear to God, I have never seen the first 10 minutes of this movie before today. Like, I do not remember anything about that first 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So, yeah, to sum up, Black Christmas is better. It's a better Christmas movie. I will die on that hill.
All right.
Like, this movie has to censor its swear words with the word fudge. Black Christmas has C-bombs in it, right? It just straight up drops them. So, I'm not saying you should show it to a 7-year-old, but...
Oh, well, now you tell me. Who do you think I watched this with?
Wait, did you kidnap a 7-year-old to watch A Christmas Story with?
Look, you're being awfully accusatory for something that you should have warned me about to begin with, so I'm putting this on you.
I wasn't aware that you were socializing with any children currently.
I have nothing that would follow that up that would sound any sort of okay, so I'm just going to let it die there.
We tried adopting a kid for a couple of days, but I don't think I like him very much. We're going to send him back.
We tried being foster parents, but we said, "Ooh, you're gross. Get out of here."
Yeah. He asked some weird questions. He smells funny, and he really wanted to watch Leprechaun, and we weren't into it. So
that would have been something that sold me. I'd be like, all right, you got some taste to you.
Very good, very good. I suppose that, I mean, the one thing we've not really talked about, I suppose, and we usually do this before we get into the plot spoilers, honestly, but you know, to credit where credit's due, I do think the parents, we said they were funnier. I think a part of that is the actors here. I think they both do a good job of feeling, you know, like they have moments where they get a little angrier, but for the most part, they never feel like they're the villains, even if the kid is so terrified of them at points. It never feels like because they are bad parents who have made them scared. They are very much normal parents, and the kid's just like really fearing punishment because he's a kid and he's like overplayed everything in his mind.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels like something just from that child perspective. It's not the fear of the parents themselves. It's not this thing where, like, you know, when the dad raises his voice, they both cower in fear in the corner or something like that. It's just the punishment aspect of it. And it's just from the viewpoint of all kids hate being punished. Clearly they would.
Yeah, obviously. So, yeah. But I just wanted to give them a bit of a shout out before we kind of get to the...
I mean, I'll also just say, like, I know that they are the actual actors here. They were experienced, so they have a lot to them. But as I said, I think that there are moments of this that are just funny, and some of that does come from the performances we get out of the kids. I think that there are moments where Peter Billingsley as Ralphie, he does deliver solid line readings. I think the little kid playing Randy, I'm not sure how much of that's him acting and how much they're just like, just go be yourself, because he plays it so genuinely. I got so many laughs out of him. So there is something there, but it doesn't feel like an acting performance so much as they're just good at being kids.
I think part of the problem with me, particularly for Ralphie, is that there's very few moments where it feels like he gets to, I don't know, like that moment when he does the decoder ring and he sees what the message is and he just throws the pencil down and goes, son of a bitch. Like, I would have liked a bit more of that. A little bit more of him reacting to what's happening around him. It felt like they leaned into like him being really young and kiddie for most of it, with all of his fantasies and the way he looks at the world. But the one or two moments where he does show a little bit of like, oh, he's on the verge of starting to talk a little bit, not grown up, but like, you know, he's starting to swear a little bit. He's starting to have a cynical side to him. I think maybe a bit more of that would have been something, you know, like maybe frame this idea around this is like the last Christmas where he's going to really feel the magic of it, because like next year he's 10, he's going to be a little bit, you know, start to question Santa's existence, start to see it differently than he does, and maybe he'd almost lose it this Christmas, but getting that present that he wanted just like keeps the magic alive just that one last time kind of thing, you know? Yeah,
well, that's kind of like, again, I don't remember a whole lot about it. It's been over a decade, but Christmas Story 2 is that, yeah, it's that idea of, you know, he's 16 now. He's much more out of that realm of things and is moving into adulthood. He's starting to take on that sort of stuff. So he can't enjoy Christmas the same way he did as a child. And that movie's got its own problems. That's a totally separate thing. But I think that you're right that this movie, what I was really looking for that I don't realize was missing is that arc, any sort of arc, whether it was growth, like showing that he is getting older, showing that there is like he has to change a little bit in order to get what he wants, anything at all. Really, his character and all other characters feel like a snapshot more so than actual change or anything happening.
Yeah. I guess the most official sequel is probably A Christmas Story, Christmas from 2022, in which Peter Billingsley did reprise the role of Ralphie in his, I guess, like 50s or whatever age he would be by that point.
I mean, if you look up the guy who did the narration or whatever, I think it's also on the main Wikipedia page. It's called the Parker Family Saga. And I guess that the guy who did the narration has just a bunch of stories that he told through the lens of this Parker family, which is the official last name for Ralphie and his family. And it's been adapted into a bunch of different movies that may or may not involve Ralphie. And it's questionable as to how much of those you want to consider to be sequels or prequels or anything like that. But his life stories have been moved around significantly.
Yeah. So not that we're in a rush to do any sequels or anything, but
nope.
Yeah, worth mentioning. All right, David, what are you rating A Christmas Story out of 10?
Boy, am I going to make some enemies on this one. Maybe this is where me rating higher than like it sounds like I should is where it's going to save me, and everyone will just hate you for rating way too low. Not having too much nostalgia for this. Obviously, there is a little bit, but more so just from the pop culture aspect of it. The idea of, the pink bunny suit and the oh fudge. Like, that's the stuff that I have more than the movie itself. I'm going to say that this one squeaks up to a 7 for me. It's still in the good territory. I don't think that that's up for debate, but it's not something that I think is regarded as a classic because of anything inherent with the quality of the movie itself or even how people relate to it. I think it's solely because it was around during their childhoods and they equate that as the positive side of things. Hopefully that isn't going to make too many enemies, but that's what I'm coming down with.
Yeah. It's not a bad movie by any stretch. It's obviously got a lot of nice things in it. I just don't know if it has a great story or a momentum or anything for me to get a lot out of it when I watch it. I almost feel like it's a detriment to the movie to sit and pay attention to it like I did because I was reviewing it. When if it was just kind of on in the background, yeah, it's background Christmas noise and that's fine. But as a actual sit down and pay attention like I'm watching any proper movie with a story, it does suffer a little bit because I think it's lacking in that department. So I am going to give it a 6.5.
Okay.
I'll say it's here. Decent plus, but not quite good.
Pete doesn't think it's a good movie.
Yes. I think it's decent. I think it's very decent even, but not good.
I think it might be the most decent movie I've ever seen in my life. That being said, I think we could probably come to an agreement on this, but I'm curious if there is some differentiation. Does it make the cut?
Cutting it close?
All right, that's what I was thinking. I couldn't, in good faith, I couldn't say cut from the collection, but I was thinking you might go there. But yeah, cutting it close.
Yeah, I don't feel that. I don't feel negative enough to be fighting for that by any stretch.
All right.
I think even my rating by definition, I think, is that it typically going to fall into cutting it close.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Sometimes you give things a 6 or whatever, and it's right in between that level of cut from the collection, cutting it close. So I wasn't sure.
No, that's fair. All right, well there you go. That's a Christmas Story, and that's 2 out of 4 Christmas movies done. We'll be back next time with our 90s Christmas vote winner, which was Jingle All the Way.
Oh boy.
And
if we were talking about lines of quotable lines from a movie, this one's got it.
And I did grow up with this one, so I'm it's going to frustrate people how much more positive I am with Jingle All the Way next week. It's going to upset you all. I want you to know this.
That's fair. I think I've seen Jingle All the Way maybe 3 times, definitely twice. But not one I definitely grew up with.
We got Arnold, we got Sinbad, we got Phil Hartman, and we have the kid who ruined Star Wars. We've got a whole shebang of a cast here.
I can't wait.
So yes, join us for that next week. You can, of course, support the show over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV or via YouTube membership and get access to the bonus rating segment that we do for every episode now, as well as for Atomic Cinema Experiment or Sci-Fi Movie Podcast. Go check that out if you haven't. But the main bonus we do once a month on Patreon is the Extra Reels show, which is where we review one of the worst movies of all time. And we mentioned Postal earlier as an example of that. That definitely does fit that bill and is very much a part of that. We've recently done the new Amazon Prime War of the Worlds starring Ice Cube. That is a pretty rough movie. So, yeah, you can check out that. We have done some of the big heavy hitters, some weirder unknown ones, but regardless, if that sounds like a fun time, that's one of the benefits of supporting us. But you can just support us to feel warm and fuzzy on the inside and help keep the show coming. But yeah,
some would say mildly fuzzy.
Very good, very good. But yes, that is what we obviously want you to do. Go do that. But yes, thanks to everyone who already does support us. And of course, we do have another season, of course, coming up after Christmas season, which is our almost annual tradition of starting the year off with a disaster movie season. And if we count airport season as season 4 of disaster movie seasons, then this is going to be season 5 of disaster movies in January.
Oh my God. Have I been doing this show with you for, well, I guess we started towards the end of the year, so 4 years, but still.
No, we did 2 in 1 year, though, because we did a 70s season and a 90s season in the same year.
Right, that's right.
So it's not quite there yet, but we're only at 3 years. We started in late 2022. We've just passed the 3-year mark. So
here I thought I was going to have to resign soon, but you got me for a little longer.
Yes. No, I've got things mapped out till mid 2027. You don't get to leave anytime soon.
I can see it. It's insanity.
Hey, I may change some of them at some point, but it's nice to have a rough roadmap this far out. Anyway, that is the show, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep watching movies, and if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity, like Santa.